Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing the Dozing fox. Oh. We're gonna do this project in 6 steps.
Wow.
We're jumping right into it.
Nice.
Our very first step is we're gonna do a light wash on our fox and also the ground. Our second step is we will be doing a medium wash on our fox and our ground. Our third step is we will be putting in the ears, the nose, the eyes, and the shadows. Our fourth step is we will be putting in the shadows on our, like the orange part. Fifth step, we'll be painting the ground, and then the very last step is details.
Nice.
We are using 4 colors in this project. Very first color is burnt orange. Second color is rose red. Third color is sea blue. And last color is black.
Ooh.
It's good. We're using 2 paintbrushes, a round 6 and a round 2. These are our go-to brushes. We are using Let's Make Art watercolor paper. Please make sure that you are painting on the more textured side. And then I use Holbein soft tape to tape it down. It's my favorite tape.
Magic tape.
It's the best tape. We will do our outline and then oath and then get to painting.
Nice.
Okay, so you're gonna tape your outline down to your taped paper. You're gonna take your graphite paper and do dark shiny side down. You are going to take a pen or a pencil and trace. Any line you make will show up on your paper.
Graphite paper is magical.
It is. Now, how hard you press will determine the darkness of your line. So try and do as light as possible because watercolor is transparent. That means you can see through it. And there are a lot of lines in this little itty bitty painting, so we'll be here for a bit. If you have a hard hand, like a hard pressure
Heavy hand.
A heavy hand, that's
there it is.
There we go. If you use a felt tip marker, you will be more successful when you do your outlines. Well, because one, the marker is colored, so you'll be able to see where you've made a mark. And 2, it just has a soft tip naturally, so it's easier to get a softer line. You can also use a light box, a window, all of those things. Wow.
There are so many lines.
There are so many lines. Usually our outlines aren't.
Do the cross hatches mean anything specific?
Oh, thank you for calling that out. Cross hatches and dashed lines are more like a visual reference for you guys, and you don't have to trace them. They're basically me showing you this is a darker area or like a shadow. So like here, there's gonna be a shadow underneath the ear, like underneath the body. That's more just for you guys. So you do not have to trace them. If it's helpful for you, then you can, but originally I used to do solid lines, and it made it really confusing between like the edge of the form and then like where a shadow was. That's so funny. This outline looks so funky, but it'll be okay. You know?
Kind of looks like a slug.
Yeah.
It's a cute dozing fox slug.
Now the great thing about like foxes, well, I love animals that you can totally tell what they are because it makes painting them so much easier. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
Orange with pointy ears, done. People are gonna be like, fox.
Owl. Oh. Yes, fox. Bear.
Bear. Did I get it right?
Nailed it.
Okay. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. I'm going to use my round 6 and we're going to go right in. We are going to do our first layer and it's going to be a light orange. So I'm going to take my burnt orange, I'm going to add water, pull that onto my palette, add some more water, and now I have a light orange.
Very
Now
nice.
I'm going to take this light orange and wherever there's an orange part on my fox, I'm going to paint. Now I like to put color down and then use water to spread it out. The thing with watercolor is you want to make sure that you're utilizing the water as if it is a paint color. You have to think of it as like a paint extender, pretty much. You know? That's why it's kind of funny because when I try and paint with like not watercolor, I kind of mess it up because I'm so used to grabbing water to make the color go longer or like spread out. So I use water to spread stuff out, and you know, that's not how other paint mediums work. So it's kind of funny.
What if you start introducing, when you do the paint, you start saying "and water" as one of your paint colors?
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
And then people will be like, "Oh, that's interesting," and they'll be like, "This is why." Bada bing, bada bear.
Keenan, you taking my job?
I mean,
You're like, well, if I'm better at it. Okay, and I kind of want to point out that as I'm painting these orange parts, there's different sections, right? Like this is the top of this is the front of the head, this is the top, this is the back of the body, this is the side. I'm painting them in those chunks. I'm not just doing a full wash across the whole thing. Technically, you can, but I like it. It's like a reminder to me that there are different sections. And so you can like communicate things to your viewer a little bit better if you keep things like that in mind, where it's just like, so it doesn't all morph into one. Now we'll go back and use different values to differentiate the sections, but even when you're putting that first wash down, you can kind of start sectioning it off. Okay, and I'm also going to lay down my green. Now we don't have green, so we're going to mix it. I'm going to use sea blue and burnt orange. I'm going to get this really pretty desaturated green. I'm going to take that. Ooh, that got really dark quick. That's okay. I'm just going to use water to blend this out. I'm going to work fairly quickly here. And remember, this is just our first layer. So don't
and you're working quickly on that for it to be able to spread better?
Yeah, for it to be able to spread better, and just like, I think it's good practice to just like work quickly when you can, and usually like the first couple of layers you do. Because we're going to do so many layers on top, they're not like, you don't have to be super precise. So sometimes I'm just like, this is good practice just to like lay paint down quickly and learn how to like make decisions quickly, even if it's just putting.
I like that too then.
Okay, that's step 1. Now we're going to move on to step 2. We're going to do another wash on our fox. And this is where we're going to start. Well, okay. Well, no. I'm just going to go for it. So this one is going to be burnt orange with not as much water. Okay?
Okay.
Now it's a good idea at this point to kind of start paying attention to where there are shadows on the fox. Now we're going to be doing more runs of it, but like think of the overall structure of a fox, of its shape, like where in the eyes, you know, the sockets are and they go in, where the nose pokes out, you know, like that kind of stuff. Start thinking about that because even though we're doing like a pretty even wash, even when I'm doing even washes, I like to keep, how do I say this? When I put color down and then spread it, I like to put the color down where I know it's going to be eventually a dark wash. Does that make sense? So you see how I did the dark washes there, and then I'm kind of spreading out from there?
Yes.
I like doing that because then if it doesn't spread evenly, then it's going to be dark there anyway, so it's not a big deal.
So make sure that's concentrated on first as a priority.
Yeah, like I feel like it's just kind of easier, or I'm like, okay, I know there's going to be a darker value right kind of at this top, and then I go to spread it, but if it doesn't blend out all the way, that's okay.
Yeah. I like how you're talking about this specifically today, like something's clicking more for me today, right now, than normally, because how you were describing painting the fox in body part sections, almost like a checklist.
Yeah.
And then your next, so a priority level, I should say, and then your next step, thought process, is your dark spots.
Yeah. Yes. So like,
I like that.
Like even though like when I'm saying painting in sections, because like this is an interesting perspective. There's foreshortening happening here, which if it was, because it's facing at us, how do I say this? If the fox were in profile, it would be clear to see the head versus its back. Because it's all pushing, like looking at us, it's more difficult for our eyes to see the different sections of the body.
Break it down.
Exactly.
Yes.
So when you do it in sections, you automatically create those different sections of the body, so then our brain goes, okay, head, neck, back. Where if you were to paint it all in one swoop, it's more likely that that entire area would connect, and then we would lose the different sections, and we would be like, why does your fox look funky? You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So this still looks funky, right? Like if you were to just look at this and nothing else, you'd be like,
is that a mountain? Is that sand?
Yes. Is that sand? But I feel like when you separate it and kind of chunk it out a little bit, it's easier for our brain to understand the foreshortening perspective.
Nice, thank you.
You're welcome.
What does a fox say?
Don't. So again, I am darkening the whole fox. You know, I want to do a wash over the whole thing pretty much. But again, kind of keeping where I lay my first color down into the areas that I know are going to be the darker values anyway. Okay, don't forget the little tail. Okay, and we're gonna do a second wash on our ground. So this time I'm gonna grab a little bit more blue into my mixture to create a green, like a brighter green. So I'm still using burnt orange and sea blue, but I'm gonna have a little bit more sea blue because look at that green looks brighter, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So again, I'm keeping the color when I'm laying it down right underneath the fox because that's where it's going to be the darkest value, and then I blend out. And you don't have to cover like the whole area when you spread out. I did a, sorry, I did not finish that thought. I did an uneven edge on here so you can see like I don't go all the way to my paper.
Mm-hmm.
I love, personally, I'm a huge fan of uneven edges. I just think they're lovely.
Like a nice little snapshot of a scene.
Yeah, like a foggy, you know what I mean? Like dreamlike. But that's also a personal preference. Like if you guys like going all the way to your paper, you totally can. Okay. And don't forget to have that green go up around the fox. We want to show that the ground continues going behind it. Okay, now we're going to switch to our 2. And before we get into the nose and the eyes, I'm going to do another run of values shadows on my fox, specifically mostly on the face, and that's because after I put in the black on the eyes, I don't want to like blur it out, so I want to make sure that my values for the orange are pretty much set around those areas, so then after I put in the black, I leave it alone. So I'm going to mix red with my orange to get a different hue, different color. And I'm going to look at those areas specifically kind of around the eye. And then use water to blend out.
Do you ever wonder why foxes aren't a normal household pet?
I don't.
I just started wondering that today, right now. How did cats make it and foxes didn't?
I don't know.
Or dogs even.
I don't know.
So interesting.
It is interesting.
Because they're lovely. They're beautiful animals.
Actually, a couple, I love painting foxes. I think they're so fun to paint. And some people asked if this was based off of a famous fox on Instagram. This one isn't actually, but I have painted that fox before actually. And I think Juniper the fox, and also Fig the fox. It's funny because I've painted them before just like for fun. Anyways, they have such a cute Instagram if you ever want to look at it, but that's what this one kind of reminds me of. So if you want to look at cute foxes, that's an Instagram. But she actually talks openly about, if I can remember correctly, about having foxes as pets and kind of wild animal. And I feel like she does a lot of rescuing, but she's just like, these pets, I don't know. I don't think she tries to create this illusion that it's like easy. You know what I mean? Like,
because they're
wild animals
that's what I was gonna say.
that have been rescued. Okay, now my red around the eye got a little bit too red, which is not a huge deal because I'm going to use green, just a little bit of green, and especially like on the deepest corner of the eye, I'm going to put some green in, and that's going to neutralize the red and create kind of a brown, create a darker shadow. So again, using a little bit of mixture of green and the red to create kind of like a neutral brown. Putting that in around the eyes. Now, because we're doing all these layers, you're gonna get some blooms, you're gonna get some uneven textures, and I think the reason why I love watercolors so much is like, let's celebrate that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want this to be like Photoshop smooth painting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're a wild animal. They got a little rough on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want you guys to stress if there are like hard edges or some different textures. I feel like in watercolor you can actually use that to your advantage, you know, and make it feel like a texture, right?
I feel like the textures are well, they're the details I think that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But they're like what ties it all to, it just finishes it to where it's just like, oh man, that could be real. Mm-hmm. I decided to look up Juniper Fox on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
Yeah, right?
And it has like Juniper and friends.
Yes.
And there's raccoons,
Yes.
possums.
Yep. Flying squirrels.
Haven't seen that yet, but it's amazing.
Wait, is that a flying squirrel? What was it? I painted. I can't remember.
Oh dear. Totally worth it.
So it's funny because I think I saw a comment on one of the pictures. They're like, was this inspired by them? And I kind of laughed because I'm like, it wasn't, but like,
That's funny.
I've painted them before, so I just did a little chuckle.
They have a lot of followers on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
3 million.
Yep. So again, I'm just taking that orange-red mixture, adding more layers, focusing on keeping the values where it'd be shadowed. Now another thing that you guys can do, because I'm looking at my reference photo, I think that the orange feels a little bit more yellow here. Mm-hmm. And I'm not entirely sure why it's not feeling as yellow here. I'm not mad because I think this orange is really nice.
I was gonna say, I like that color a lot.
But if you're missing the orange yellowness of this, what you can do is you can take yellow, like if you got the whole October box, you can take a little bit of the yellow. I'll show you. I'll just do it in one section so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But you can take a little bit of the yellow and just do like a wash underneath, and you see how that warms it up?
Totally.
Yeah. So that's an option if you are looking at this and you're missing that.
And who doesn't love a little color?
Who doesn't love a little warmth? And again, if you want to go into the browns, because especially when there's darker values, like the shadows and stuff, I mean, brown is essentially dark orange. So foxes are orange. So whenever there's a darker value, you're gonna be getting into the brown color. And so we can mix our brown by mixing together the rose red and a little bit of the sea blue and burnt orange. So So I'm going to go in kind of with my orange, my brown here, start putting in some browns.
Wow.
What?
Just, it's funny how alive it's slowly looking.
It's starting to pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's my favorite part. When it actually starts to feel three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And usually, if that's not happening in your painting, if you're like, man, no matter what I do, it just feels flat, it's because your values are either too even,
not enough variety,
or you're just not going dark enough.
Huh.
So push yourselves, maybe use a little bit more paint than you're used to. But when you get those values nice and dark in the shadowed areas, and then you go to like the light value, like here, you know what I mean? When you have that range, that's when you're like, okay, yeah, this is actually a three-dimensional thing. And it's like so great. It's my favorite part of painting, when that form starts to merge.
it is very satisfying.
Yeah. And then like, it's helpful when you're like, if you don't have a reference, like a great reference photo handy, when you're trying to think of the different values, you need to think what's farthest away from the light. So for example, right here is actually where we would see some of our darkest values, because the fox is curled in and around, and there's no light that can get in there. You know what I mean? Where like this one, even though this is a dark value, like there's still light hitting on top of it. Where like right in this inside, where like that inside is all touching because it's curled in, that's where it's gonna be some of our darkest value. So you wanna make sure it's nice and dark there, because there's no light. But don't go like black. That's too dark. And you see how when you darken that, it pushes it, it separates it.
It's mind-blowing how, like, well, I don't want to say simple, but how a small adjustment like that can make a huge difference. I say I don't want to say simple to elaborate on that comment, because I don't think it would be that simple for me to make that adjustment initially. If I did this 4 or 5 times and really just delved real deep into this project, I'd probably be able to start seeing differences in that, in that skill there. Definitely build a skill.
Yes, yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah.
Just takes some time to get to a place where you understand, like, 1, what you need to do, and then 2, how to go about doing it, and then when you mess up, how to fix it, right? Like, because no matter what, you're gonna mess up. It's really just like, how do you hide it when you mess up? Okay, so that's feeling good. My fox is starting to really pop.
Foxy.
It's getting nice and foxy. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do the like the shadows on the white fur, and then the ears and the eyes and the nose, okay? So I'm gonna take my round 2, and I'm gonna take black and add water to it to make a gray. Using this gray, I'm gonna paint the top of the mouth. And start kind of putting a little bit of shadow and form into the white sections. Now, it's kind of funny because when you think of watercolor and you think of like painting the white sections, it's sometimes confusing because you're like, okay, the paper is white. My job is done. You know what I mean? You're just like, how do I how do I paint a white section with no white paint on top of white paper? And really what you're doing is you're not painting the white sections, you're painting the shadowed sections. So I don't have to paint the white fur, I gotta paint the gray that is around the white fur to show the shape of the white area, okay? So like on the edge here where the fur is gathered and it kind of chunks up, that creates a layer, which then creates a shadow underneath. So you need to, or like the bottom of the mouth, it's white, but the top of the mouth is casting a shadow underneath it, so that will actually be gray. So I personally love painting white animals in watercolor, or the white sections, because it's like literally a third of the amount of work. Okay, so we put in the white, or the gray section on our fox. We're gonna let that dry. And we are gonna go to the ears. So, and of course your fox looks funny right now, and that's mostly because he doesn't have eyes or a nose right now. That's
what it was.
So just give him a second to, before you make a decision about him. I'm gonna take my sea blue and mix it with my black. And then on the ears, I'm gonna take that color and go along the edge. Now you see I'm gonna be using like sketchy strokes.
I love those kind.
Which means you're kind of like doing it in layers. You don't have to worry about a solid line. Then I'm gonna rinse my brush and kind of smear that color a little bit. Let's actually add some burnt orange in here, add some warmth.
I love that ear. Right as you put in the orange, I loved it less, but I love the ear right before you did that.
I love it when like the black has hints of blue. I really do. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do just water onto this like middle section that I chunked off, and I'm gonna take that blue black and drop it in there. And it's gonna smear and it's gonna bleed and it's gonna get a little bit crazy, and I'm gonna embrace whatever happens. This is the part of watercolor that I personally enjoy. I love the accidental element of it. I love seeing what texture is gonna happen. Where is this gonna go? What colors are gonna bleed together to make a color that I wasn't totally anticipating? And it's almost like, I don't know, an exciting experiment every time you paint.
Never know what you're gonna get.
Never know what you're gonna get. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the outside. I'm going to take this blue black and then I'm gonna just use water. Now this ear we see a little bit more of the side of. So we see a little bit more of that black, blue black color that we have. Mm. And then this one, it's barely there edge, okay? And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna use just water for this middle section. This is like the inside of the ear. And then I'm gonna drop in that black. We're gonna get some interesting textures, and we're just gonna celebrate whatever happens. And then just to like add a little bit of color so it's not like white paper, I'm gonna take a little burnt orange and just do like a little wash. Try and avoid the black area so it doesn't like go crazy, but if you accidentally hit it, it's not the end of the world. Cool. Okay? And now, let's do our nose. You just wanna make sure your paper is dry, like the orange section is dry before you do the eye, because you wanna make sure it's nice and stays sharp. So I'm going to go to the nose and the mouth. Basically, I'm just gonna do black for the front of it. And I'm not talking because this is a very tiny area. You're gonna kind of paint around the nostrils, like so. And then for the top of the nose, we're gonna go with that same kind of bluish gray. We want it to be a lighter value.
got a fox.
We got a fox. Okay, now we're gonna do the mouth. So I'm just taking my 2 and just kind of following that mouth line. Okay.
Oh, he's smirking.
He's got a little smirk, doesn't he? And it's so funny because, like, depending on like the shape of the eyes and the mouth, that is really what gives animals like a personality, like a little bit of a look. And I think it's always so fun to see what they
how they wake up,
how they come out.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Now I'm going to do the eyes. So basically his eyes are closed, so it's just a little boop. Just kind of following my outline, if you can still see it. I painted pretty heavy on the right hand side, so I'm kind of just eyeballing it. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm just kind of gonna do like, kind of take a step back, look at where your white values are, or you know, like your grays, I mean, and see if you need to add, like darken any areas.
When I kind of compare your reference photo to what you're painting now,
Yeah.
I would think that your fox needs to be a little dirtier everywhere.
This one looks too smooth.
He looks clean.
He does look clean. We got to mess him up. I agree, Keenan.
But,
so we got to put in our...
But that was where my butt was going to come from.
Okay.
But because they're not the same and they are equally unique, I love the second one so much because he's so clean.
Well, I'm going to go mess him up.
Wow.
Thanks for telling me what you love about my painting.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ignore it and do something the opposite of what you want.
The thing I mentioned earlier that you don't like.
But Keenan is absolutely right, as in like at this point I didn't put a lot of like textures, like fur textures in at my fox. So if you want to leave it and have it be kind of like this baby skin smooth, like go for it. If you want to add some like fur textures and mess it up and make that a little bit not as pretty, that's what I'm going to do next. Okay.
Okay.
So this is where it's totally up to you as an artist, and you can decide what you want. So what I'm going to do, sorry, I just need to darken this. Okay, so I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to mix orange, red, let's get some more orange, orange, red, and a tiny, tiny bit of sea blue. Get like a dark orange brown. And I'm going to go through and do little tufts, like little sections. And you can see them on the outline. Where did I put my outline here? See the little tufts?
Oh.
So that's what I'm going through and putting in. This is where like the hair has kind of gathered and makes these little like sections.
He's run through some mud.
Yeah.
Or some tall grass with those little stickly thingies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's just furry.
Oh. Now it seems like you're doing this on purpose. I feel attacked.
You feel. Okay.
Now the messy and wild comment I could have made really seems like a missed opportunity.
Okay. Now, when I'm in the face, these are going to be smaller because the hair The hair like closest to the eyes and nose is small and tiny. And then when we get to like the body, that hair is longer, which means our strokes and our fur like textures, our tufts, that becomes longer and thicker.
This would be a really cool opportunity to try a dry brush stroke for texture.
Oh my gosh, I was just about to say that.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm learning.
Yeah. So you can just take your brush and it's dry because you can see like it's an uneven line.
Look how cool that looks so real.
I know. Dry brush technique. I don't know why it's taking me literal years to utilize this technique, but now it's like whenever I'm painting an animal, pretty much
Dry brush technique.
dry brush technique.
Whatever the animal's name is, middle name, dry brush technique.
Dry brush. What's the question? Doesn't matter. Answer. Dry brush.
Dry brush.
Dry brush.
What's your SPM? Dry brush.
See, like, isn't that cool?
That's amazing.
It's like, it looks like you spent a lot of time doing that.
Totally does.
And you really didn't. It's my favorite thing. And I'm going to do some on the tail. Okay.
Wow. I love how his eye kind of looks like it's open a little bit.
I think it's because I have a highlight right there. I'm going to darken that.
Yeah, no, you should. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you should darken that.
You wanted to keep it?
Yeah, he kind of looks like he's peeking around.
He does.
He's like, do I want to wake up yet? Or is the sunbathing way too good? No, he's out. Oh, wow. Now he has another, now it changes his face a little bit more.
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And also I think the black is still a little bit wet, so it has a little glare on it.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cute little fox. I just feel like that dry brush technique is so fun. I just want to keep doing it. But don't go too crazy with it, you guys. It's hard, but like, you got to use it sparingly or else it kind of has a counter
I think what you mean
effect.
to say is with great power comes great responsibility.
That's it. That is it. Yes. Okay. Now we're going to do the last run on our grass. So I'm going to take blue and I'm going to take orange, get a green. And again, the darkest value is going to be underneath, right underneath our fox. And then use that water to spread. And I'm using the side of my round 6 to get a nice thick stroke. It just like is much easier to cover that area when you use this side. So I'm being nice and gestural. That means loose. I'm letting my brush strokes be seen. Oops. Accidentally picked up yellow. I want orange. And you can see here I have some blue on my reference photo, so that's just like the sea blue that I grabbed. Ooh, that was dark. That's okay. Blend it out. So I'm going to go a little bit darker right where this body meets the ground. Don't forget the right side over here. Okay. All right. And now we just got to do our very last step, our details.
Wow.
So I feel pretty good about my fox actually. Like, I don't think that there's anything I need to go in there and adjust. What you can do if you want to add a little extra oomph is take your take some burnt orange, and you can go along here and just do like little like hair textures that kind of stick out. Not around the whole thing, but just on some of the areas, just to give that little extra detail, to make it feel a little bit more like there's actually fur hair on top going over into the white section. Okay. And then I'm actually going to mix a dark green. So try and get it as dark as you can. And using this dark green, I'm going to do my blades of grass. So I'm just going to do like little, kind of like right where the grass is coming out, touching my fox, getting some little textures. And you can decide like how much you want to do of this, where. Keenan, what's the name of our fox friend here?
I was thinking we should name him strictly with a nickname rather than a full name.
Okay.
I can't decide if we should call him, it's like something Train, you know, like, the fellas back at home call me D-Train. Because my defense is strong.
D-Train.
Or he's kind of sneaky. He's a sly fox.
Yeah.
He's taking it easy.
He's dozing.
He's dozing. He's not really worried about anything.
Right, he's pretty chill.
So I feel like that's like a pretty chill fox's name that we need for him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, who doesn't love to doze? So maybe we name him Dozer.
Yes! That's it. Dozer. This is Dozer the fox. He's so cute.
He is.
Look at him nice and comfy in there. Well, I hope you guys had fun with this project. This is a great lesson in layering. It's a great lesson in textures, in values, all of that fun stuff. So if you painted this with us, go ahead and share it. If you're on Instagram, you can tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. If you are on Facebook, you can join our Facebook group. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. And if you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. Keenan, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.